and welcome to UC Today. My name is Kieran Devlin and today's session is an exclusive interview with Avocor CEO and founder Scott Hicks about Avocor's acquisition by AUO Display and what is next for the company. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kieran. It's good to see you.
Before we explore exactly what's going on with the acquisition, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Scott, and your career journey to becoming Avocor's CEO?
Certainly can. Fortunately for me, or unfortunately, I've grown up in this wonderful AV industry 30 plus years now, I think. Started in at 22. A right place, right time. Kid that happened to be around a startup business called InFocus and was able to join that in the early onset of developing the technology that now has became a catalyst for our overall display industry. So with InFocus for 15 years, and I ran everything from channel development to business development to global sales, eventually an officer of the company, and grew that to about $1 billion with a very talented global employee base. I was real fortunate to then go to my next journey over to a company called Planar, which we're all familiar with as well, and helped to scale that to the large format display company it is today. And then 15 years ago, I got a bit of an itch to break out on my own, and with about 12 of the top talent that had worked with me in my previous companies, that I was part of in product and supply chain and sales and marketing. We actually created a consultancy group called Target Path, which still exists today. And from that journey, about 10 years ago, we began to work on the concept of Avocor. And we were real excited to launch that business about 9 years ago officially into market, which is why we're talking today.
Absolutely. As a very nice segue, you're doing my job for me. Well, let's move on to the topic at hand then. What was the origin of the acquisition by AUO Display and how are the very early stages of the integration between the two companies going?
Yeah, great question. So the origin really was a catalyst of a vision that myself and our board of directors had about 5 years ago, knowing that this interactive display in the communication market was starting to mature rapidly. We also knew, given our history in displays, the importance of scale, technology innovation, size, as this begins to cross that chasm from what we call the early adopter side of the market to more the early majority. And in doing so, we also felt like as Avocor being really a relatively new company, only 9 years old, we'd look to find a partnership that long-term might be the right potential either merger or acquisition for us. So because of our background, we have a very large Rolodex of the biggest display tech companies around the world. And frankly, we had a short list of partnerships. And I was very blessed when the CEO of AUO, Frank Coe, and I sat down and began to talk about his vision for where he was taking that $8 billion company that leads the display component technology side and where they were going with their go vertical and solution strategy and how Avocor needing a partner like AUO would really look to align to see if we can't make 1 and 1 equal 3. So that was about 2.5 years ago we started the discussions. And from that, AUO made a decision to actually make an initial investment. So they were actually one of our first outside investors we ever let in to Avocor. So we've actually been involved with AUO for 2.5 years. And then finally, what led us to where we're at today, about 1.5 years ago, Frank and I had a really important discussion over dinner. And again, his vision to take what is one of the leading global display manufacturers in the world for all things LCD and LED related, and wanting to move them more into the solution-based business. So think of it as moving from the display itself and the product to the full product development. And Avocor being a brand known globally that does just that. And it really helped us to kind of consolidate the value chain from component to solution development to a brand in market. And Frank made the suggestion, what if they increase the investment and potentially downstream do an acquisition? And would I be interested in coming over to help lead the education and enterprise business group worldwide? And for me, it was a perfect fit. So we actually really set the course for this transaction about 1.5 years ago. I spent the last year in an acting role as the general manager for the global education and enterprise division within AUO Display Plus. And then, of course, we finalized the transaction to formally acquire 100% share of Avocor on September 1st, here in 2024.
Great, fantastic. So it really is the very early stages of the integration, then only a couple of weeks. Again, looking ahead, I'm really interested, obviously AUO Display and Avocor are very distinct areas of expertise in AV and in the meeting room device market. How do you guys plan on leveraging the distinct strengths of both companies to really get a competitive advantage?
Great question. Well, again, with 30 years in the display industry, one of the things I'm intimately aware of is when you consider the value chain of what makes the good companies great, it's controlling as much of the value chain as possible. And when you think of, say, an interactive display or a large format LED or a digital signage product, that value chain starts with the technology. So if you control one of the key components, which in our case would be the LCD or the LED, check that box because AUO is one of the largest manufacturers and engineering companies in the world. And I say that globally across so many different product technologies and categories, including large format. So we control that part of the value chain. Then you move to the next part, which is taking that component and creating a full solution. So adding in audio and video and the board technology and software to create, say, a full complete IFPD. Check that box because AUO Display has that capability inside their business. And then, of course, the next part of the value chain is, are you a brand in the market that has consumer awareness and channel, loyalty? And that's where Avocor comes in. So the three critical kind of what I call value chains before you get to the channel partner and user, we are one of the few companies in the world now that actually control all three elements. So it really positions us long term for competitive advantage on cost, on innovation, time to market, quickly understanding what consumer driver and requirements are back into the development teams now. So it really creates a significant, I think, advantage going forward. Not to mention, when you are an $8 billion company doing display, your supply chain strength is extremely amazing on a global stage. So all of that is really what's feeding the future competitive advantage for Avocor and for AUO and AUO Display Plus.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an exciting time. And I guess an analog to my previous question about the new scope for opportunities in the market is that extends also to new market segments and even geographic areas. Are there any new opportunities within that remit that you guys have identified as arising from the acquisition?
Very much so. In fact, as I mentioned previously, even though the acquisition closed on September 1st, we've actually been part of the AUO and AUO Display Plus family for a year and a half as both an investor, and then we began to integrate some of the engineering and operational teams early. So what has it led to is, as we showed up at ISE, for example, in 2024, and then at Infocom as well, what really distinguished Avocor for the first time is we were no longer just an interactive display company. We began to show digital signage products. We began to show prosumer displays. We began to show direct view LED products. And equally important, a whole range of software core competencies that we could wrap around those different platforms. So first big proof point of this acquisition is that expansion in product category that has really gone rapidly, into whole new markets for us. And geographically speaking, as you could imagine, a company of AUO side, and even Avocor, Avocor already was in over 80 countries around the world. But when you layer into that the strength of logistics and operations and supply chain and just physical offices from AUO, which literally is global in every major country, we now have huge initiatives in Southeast Asia, in India, Middle East to go along with what already was a very strong North America, UK, and European footprint that Avocor had in place. So we truly are fulfilling on the promise of product line expansion and geographic expansion in a very rapid fashion.
I'm curious about response from customers, and I imagine there might be some excitement and some concern. But I was just about how has the acquisition and how will it impact new and existing customers for Avocor?
Great questions. Well, again, the unique element to this acquisition is because AUO made an investment in Avocor 2.5 years ago, and they are a public company. We didn't necessarily keep that a secret because you can't. As a public company, AUO has to disclose those types of things. So much of our distribution and reseller and end user customer base has known for some time now about the partnership with AUO and Avocor, and it certainly has led to nothing but goodwill and benefit for all of us. I mean, if you are going to be a channel partner for Avocor or one of our major accounts globally or regionally, knowing that we have the balance sheet strength behind us, which means we're going to be here for a very long time. Knowing that we can innovate technology faster than anyone, and because of that, the proof points were expand our product portfolio. So our top customers, instead of just be using us as an interactive flat panel display provider, now they're using us for all their display needs in either their enterprise or educational space. It really created goodwill from the beginning when we began to talk to it. We shared more information over the last 6 to 9 months of where it was heading. And then ultimately, as this announcement has came out, again, it was just a proof point that they said, yep, you delivered on what you promised was going to occur. And we've actually seen the results happening in real time already. So it's really been nothing but goodwill and benefit from all of the as I'll call it, kind of the value chain from us down into the channel and users since this communication was shared.
And one final question before I let you go, Scott, and this is very much jumping far into the future. What are your guys' plans for growth over the next, say, 3 to 5 years? And I imagine this sort of alludes to what we were discussing earlier about that competitive advantage in those market segments in geographic areas. But if there's any, I guess, sort of real outline to what your guys are pursuing over the next 5 years or so.
Well, I think, as I've already mentioned before, but it certainly is a good way to summarize the final points here. The fact that we now have AUO, an 8 billion global leader in display technology, behind us, allows us to now create a diversity of product platforms across multiple display areas. As I mentioned, not only IFPDs, but digital signage, ultra wide, prosumer, direct view LED, smart space solutions. The fact that our supply chain has the strength in what we buy and spend and how we can manufacture and service and support. And then the regional operational capability and support now that is in place for us to get behind our channel partners and end users. All of that should lead to competitive advantage, speed, innovation, and really what I think is a mutually beneficial future for anyone doing business with Avocor and AUO. So we're really excited, as I said before, of what this translates to all of our partners as well as our employees here at Avocor.
Perfect. Well, I think that's all we've got time for today, but it's been a really good and insightful session. So thank you, Scott, for your time.
Thank you, Kieran, and I appreciate your time today as well.
And if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share it on social media, and we'll see you next time. I've been Kieran Devlin of UC Today. Thanks for watching.